The lights of fashion show dazzle like stars falling to earth, and cameras flash in relentless bursts. A celebrity, one whose face graced billboards from Times Square to Sunset Boulevard, stepped out onto the runway. She was draped in a gown so breathtaking that even the seasoned critics gasped. A dress that shimmered with precision, stitching, hand-embroidered details, and fabric that seemed to move with the rhythm of music itself. But behind the cameras and the shadows, a man stood with tears in his eyes. His name was David Romero, a humble tailor. That gown, the one igniting headlines around the world, was his work. His hands had bled making it. His nights had been spent bent over fabric until dawn. And yet, the man who had commissioned it, a wealthy client with money enough to buy entire racks of suits, had refused to pay him a single cent. David had been humiliated, dismissed, told his labor was worthless. But now, as the gown commanded the world stage, the truth could no longer be hidden. This is a story of how a tailor who was nearly broken by injustice found his redemption in the most unexpected place, when a celebrity revealed his work to the entire world. David Romero wasn't born into luxury. His world began in a small neighborhood in Newark, New Jersey, where his mother worked double shifts as a seamstress in a factory. As a child, David would sit at her feet, watching the rhythmic hum of the sewing machine, the dance of the needle-piercing fabric, the patience it took to turn scraps into beauty. His mother taught him the first lessons. The thread must be steady, David. Even when your hands are tired, the work must stay true. He carried those words with him into adulthood. By his late 20s, David had opened a modest tailoring shop on a side street in Manhattan. It wasn't flashy, no gleaming glass doors or marble floors, but word spread. Clients came for precision. The way a suit fit like it had grown on their skin, the way a dress seemed to know the shape of its wearer's soul. David loved his work. He lived for the quiet satisfaction of finishing a piece, of seeing someone's eyes widen as they beheld what he created. But love didn't pay the bills. And in the fashion world, respect often hinged on who you served, not the quality of your craft. So when Richard Holloway walked into his shop one afternoon, David felt as though fate had opened a door. Richard was the kind of man who carried his wealth like armor. A Wall Street investor with a penchant for expensive cigars and Italian cars, his reputation preceded him. He had a way of entering rooms as though they were already his. He stood in David's shop, brushing lint from his $3,000 blazer, and smirked. "You come recommended," he said. "They tell me you can work miracles with fabric." David smiled, his callous fingers smoothing the edge of his tape measure. "I do my best, sir. What do you have in mind?" Richard explained he wanted something bold, a collection, not just one suit or one dress, but an ensemble of pieces he planned to showcase at an exclusive gala he was hosting. He wanted garments that whispered wealth and roared status. "I'll make you designs people won't forget," David promised. Richard waved his hand dismissively. "Good. Money won't be a problem." David didn't know then how cruelly ironic those words would become. The weeks that followed tested David's limits. He sourced the finest fabrics, imported threads from France, and spent sleepless nights hand-stitching details so intricate they seemed impossible. His small workshop filled with sketches, discarded swatches, and the scent of steamed wool and pressed silk. He worked until his fingers blistered, until the candlelight blurred his vision. His apprentice begged him to rest, but David only shook his head. "This is the opportunity," he whispered. "This could change everything." The collection took shape. Gowns that shimmered like water under moonlight, suits sculpted with architectural precision. Each piece was a testament not just to skill, but to the years David had spent perfecting his craft in obscurity. When Richard returned to see the finished work, even he was momentarily stunned. "You really can sew," Richard said, his voice cool but begrudgingly impressed. David exhaled, pride swelling in his chest. "I'll prepare the invoice." But Richard's smirk returned. "Invoice? Let's hold off on that." At first, David thought he'd misheard. "Hold off." "Yes." Richard shrugged. "Consider this an investment. If your work impresses at the gala, maybe we'll talk payment. Until then, think of it as free publicity. Exposure, as they say." The words cut deeper than any blade. David's throat tightened. "Mr. Holloway, I've spent weeks on this. The fabrics, the labor, it's all accounted for. I have a family to feed. I can't live on exposure. Richard's eyes hardened. Then maybe you shouldn't have dreamed so big. You'll get your payment when I decide it's earned. And just like that, he left, with David's creations tucked under his arm, and not a dime paid. David sank onto a stool, the weight of exhaustion crashing over him. His hands trembled. His mother's voice echoed in his mind. The thread must be steady, David, even when your hands are tired. But his hands had never felt so powerless. The gala came and went. David wasn't invited. He read about it online, scrolling through glossy photos of models twirling his designs while Richard took credit for commissioning visionary couture. No mention of David. No payment. No justice. Worse, whispers spread in the fashion district that David was difficult, that he'd overcharged a wealthy client. Other clients backed away. Orders slowed. Bills piled up. One evening, as he closed his empty shop, his apprentice found him staring at a half-finished suit, his eyes hollow. "They can't erase your work," she said softly. "One day, the right person will see it." David forced a smile, but inside, he wondered if that day would ever come. Weeks later, while flipping through a fashion magazine at a corner deli, David's breath caught. There she was, a world-famous actress, someone whose name alone made headlines, photographed stepping out of a black SUV, and she was wearing his gown. The magazine didn't say his name. It credited designer unknown. But David knew every stitch, every line of embroidery. That was his work. And it wasn't just in one magazine. Within days, photos of her in his gown exploded across social media. Critics raved about the mystery designer. Fans demanded to know who had created it. The buzz grew louder. And then, at the Oscars red carpet weeks later, the actress appeared again in another of David's designs. Cameras flashed. Interviewers gushed. "Who made this dress?" they begged. This time, the actress smiled. A tailor named David Romero. Remember his name. The revelation sent shockwaves through the fashion world. Suddenly, journalists hunted him down. "Are you the man behind the gowns?" they asked. Influencers posted about his shop. Celebrities began reaching out for fittings. David's phone rang nonstop. Orders flooded in. And Richard Holloway? He tried to spin the story, to take credit, to insist David had been under contract. But the world wasn't listening to him anymore. The spotlight had shifted, and it wasn't leaving David. For the first time in months, David walked into a shop and felt hope crack open the darkness. His apprentice hugged him, tears in her eyes. "You did it," she whispered. "No," David said softly, looking at the sewing machine his mother had once used. "We did it." David Romero's story isn't just about fashion. It isn't just about a gown. It's about dignity. It's about resilience. It's about standing tall, even when the powerful try to break you. Because in the end, truth shines brighter than wealth. So when someone tells you your work is worthless, when they try to rob you of credit, remember David. Remember the tailor who was refused payment, humiliated, nearly forgotten, until the world finally saw what he was capable of. And the next time life tries to silence you, don't give in. Keep creating. Keep fighting. Because your work, your voice, your truth, it matters. And one day, it may step onto a stage so bright that no one can deny it.